All right. Thank you so much for joining, if you're joining. This is our first live tutorial, hopefully a first of many. So thank you guys, those that are joining now. My name is Charles. I am one of the owners of Fish On Customs. We're located in the San Fernando Valley in West Hills. And we teach rod building classes, and we also sell components. We sell anything and everything that you might need for rod building, building your own custom rods. And we also build them for those that are that choose to get them built. This will be edited and posted later on our YouTube and on Facebook for those that are watching on Facebook. If you have any questions, since I'm using my phone to record, I can't really get to it at that moment, so we'll probably do that at the end. Now, just some disclaimers. Instagram only allows me to do a 1 hour video, so I'm going to try to do this in 1 hour as quickly as I can, but to kind of get everyone the gist of it. And second, if we decide to do a Q&A at the end, which I will probably do, I'll stop the video and then I'll start again, like set up the camera and then start again to do a short Q&A if you have any questions. So just save those questions for the end, and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so first things that you might need, you can do Turks heads with your hand. I know there are people who do that, and they come out great. But if you want to do something a little bit more complex, something like this is a 8-bite Turks head. Something like this comes out to about 2 inches, and let me show you what it looks like when it's completed. Get it in the camera here. That's kind of what it'll look like when it's done, right? Something like that. It's about 2 inches long, and it's a pretty, in my opinion, a pretty impactful looking Turks head. Not to say that other ones aren't. So to start, you make your Turks head. I do it on a jig similar to this. This is a piece of PVC. I have pegs that come out into this, and I do my Turks head. And I have a formula for that. And after, take it off of the jig and roll it onto the, or slide it onto my blank. Okay, in this case, this is a deckhand style rod that I'm rewrapping for a customer. So I got my tag ends here. Okay, and by the way, I usually do 2 pass if I'm gonna do a 3 pass or 3 layered Turks head. So I'll start off with two passes, and then the offset color, I'll do that one after I tie this on. I found that it's easier and faster to do it that way. Okay. Now, I have my tag ends here, and I usually put my tag ends, I don't know if you can see this, but I put my tag ends not down here at the base, but I put it somewhere in the middle so that when I go to cut it off or melt the cord off, I can tuck it and bury it underneath, and you can't really see it after. Kind of cord that I use, that most people use, is I'm sure many people know, it's an Atwood rope. We also carry this, and we carry it in different colors. It's a 1/16 rope, made here in the U.S. I believe it's in Ohio, I want to say. I'm not or New Jersey. I'm not 100% sure of where, but it's definitely made here in the U.S. And so here, we'll get started. After you've done your grip, whatever it is, whether it's tuna cord or if it's cork tape, EVA or foam, you want to make sure that's completed. And usually I'll do this at the very end. That's my last thing that I do to a rod. If I have a decorative like this isn't finished, I'll usually put like a small trim or winding check, whether it's rubber or whatever. But I'll finish this first completely, and then put this on, especially if the Turks head is going to creep over this way, right up onto the blank. Usually, and lately, I've been doing it this way, where it shows a little bit of the winding check. But whatever you do, if you're going to put finish, do this after, because finish will suck up into the cord and it doesn't look really good in my opinion. Okay, so to start, tools that I have are, let's see, I've got 2 different types of needles that I use. These are both paracord needles, and I know you can get them smaller, but I'm not sure where. If anyone knows, please send me a direct message where I can get these a little bit smaller. But I get this one. This one's a paracord needle, paracord size. And what I do is I'll melt the tag end of one of my tag ends, and I'll kind of fit it into here while it's still kind of wet, and then screw it down, and then it fits just fine. Okay, so leave that there. Next, I use a sewing owl, AWL. I'll include a link on Amazon of where I can get this. I use this, or this is used for sewing, obviously, or bookbinding. It's really comfortable. I would recommend to dull this tip a little bit because it can fray your thread. So that happens. Okay. All right. So to start, I usually start behind the tag end. I'll start back here. Right. So I'll follow the tag end where it goes. I'll follow it back. Right. And I'll start back here, and I'll pull this one. All right. So if you notice, this is what's pulling the tag end over here. Okay. It follows right through here. Okay. Right through there. So I'll pull that, and then I'll keep going, and I'll skip one. So this goes back over here, and I'll be over here. So it's 2 behind the one that I just pulled. So I'll pull that. Okay. So here's the first one I pulled, skip 2, the first one, then I'll follow it again, right? Keep following. Here's 1, follow again, and it's over here. This guy over here, skip 2. Okay, so I just do that just to kind of get it in place. Okay, then from here I'm gonna go back and pull the slack out of this guy. All right. So for now, you can turn the Turk's head if you want. You can turn the Turk's head freely on the blank, but when it gets tighter, I usually just turn the whole rod on my lathe. Okay, and you don't need a lathe to do this, but it's just nice because that's the kind of lathe that I have right now. Okay, so go back over here, and I'll pull this out, and I'll pull these 2, and I'm pulling both at the same time. Now you don't want to pull it super tight. You want it just to be tight enough. And I'm going to leave this here. We'll get to that later. Okay. So now, skip this. I'm over here. So now I'm going to pull this going this way. Now, whenever you're doing a Turk's head, you always want to work in the same direction. In my case, I'm going from back to this way, to away from me. Okay. I'm going to pull both of them. And I'm pulling both at the same time. There. This guy, here's where my tool comes in. Pull that. Pull this guy. Oops, missed. Pull this guy. Right here. Okay. And then pull this and try to pull them so that they're parallel. All right, and you keep doing that. You keep working your way around until you get to that tag end where the slack kind of feeds out. Now, while I'm doing this, I know that some people are probably wondering, well, how long of a cord do you work with? What I'll do is whatever formula that I have for a Turk's head that I'm doing, whatever pattern it is, I'll go over each of those patterns. This is for those that are making their own Turk's heads, mind you. I'll go over those patterns and make sure that I'll go over it like just really quick, just a dry, kind of like a dry run, just go through each number or each bite, and then I can determine the length. I'll probably have to do a separate video on actually making your own Turk's head. So stay tuned for that. But here, I'm over at my tag end now. So notice this end is getting longer each time I keep pulling. At the same time, this is my short tag end. I leave that be, and my long tag end keeps getting longer, okay? And you'll notice this is starting to get tighter. So from here, I just start working backwards, all right? So I have this guy, I'll pull this. And mind you, I'm not pulling this super tight, okay, for a reason. This is where that third Turks, or the third layer or third color comes in. Or if you're doing a 3-turn Turks head, something I just discovered the other day when I was doing these, when I was doing one for a customer, I noticed that I could continue to use the long end. Again, that's determined upon what Turks head you decide to do. Now, if you look right here, see how there's, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a little cross here, then there's another cross here. You want to try to avoid that as much as possible. I know this is my tag end here, so, and this one's supposed to be on this side. So you want to avoid that because it'll come out a lot cleaner at the end if you can avoid that cross over. Okay. Just try to keep them all nice and neat and clean. Uh-oh. There we are. Okay. All right. So, going back, pulling all this slack out. So you keep doing this and you literally go through it, go through your Turks head. Literally, you're essentially doing this several times. It seems tedious and it seems painstaking, but believe me when I say it, you get used to it. For me, it's kind of like a Zen kind of thing. Like I just kind of block out everything and just continue doing the Turks head one bite at a time. Something you definitely don't want to rush, because I've done that and it ends up taking longer when you have to rush it because mistakes happen, you know, and definitely don't want that. Or if you do make mistakes, then it's a great way to learn, you know, to learn how not to make that mistake again. All right, so keep going. Okay. So I said I'll get the comments later on. So if you have any questions or anything, please feel free to comment and I'll get them later. Let's see, this guy goes there. See, I noticed that there was a cross over here. So I'm working my way back because if there's a cross here, then there's a cross somewhere else. And lo and behold, I found it back here. So you want to keep those as much as possible. Just try not to have any twists in your thread or in your cord as you're tying this, because it'll just be a lot easier at the end. It's one less thing you got to deal with. All right. That guy goes there. And I'm essentially pulling both of the cords, like I said, like keep pulling both of them so that they both, so essentially I'm doing 2 at a time, right? Before I used to do this, pretty much I used to do this 1 at a time, and I'll work my way back, and it just took forever. It would take me, gosh, hour and a half, 2 hours to do these. Now I can do them a lot faster, completed maybe in an hour, if that. Depending on how focused I am. If I'm super distracted, then that's definitely not going to happen. Here's another cross. So I'm going to fix that over here. You just keep going till you tighten everything down. For those that think that this is maybe like, oh, this is going to be really fast and, you know, get this done really fast. Yes, you essentially can get this done really quick, but it will require, but then those are smaller, Turks heads. Harder ones, or not harder ones, but Turks heads that are a little bit more complicated, I guess, to tie will take a little bit longer because you've got a lot more bites and looks different. You know, like it'll just take a little bit longer, but the end results are definitely worth it. Okay, so I made my way to the end again. So now I've got a relatively loose Turk's head, right? Make sure everything's looking good. Now I just pick, from here I just pick, you know, this is already pretty tightened down. I'll pick maybe, you know, one of the most loose slacks and pull that out. So, like this guy. Pull this one going this way. Right? And when you pick those looser ones, right, you'll start to collect all of the other ones that are loose. So the first step that I've been doing for like the last 17 or 15 minutes is just to get it so that I have a more manageable knot. Also, if you want to share this, please feel free to do so. Tag a friend, tag a buddy, and share this with them if you think that this is a workshop or a tutorial that would benefit them or something they'd be interested in. Okay. Now, I don't pretend to be an expert or a master at this at all. I mean, I think to be a master at anything, it's a lifelong journey. I've done many of these, and I've been able to achieve consistent results, and I'm just sharing the way that I do it. If you have a better way of doing it or something that works better for you, then I do recommend just do that. Continue to do it that way if you get the same results. And that goes for anything, whether it's rod building or whatever. You know, when you start, if you want to make something better, then, you know, find a better way to do it. But if you're getting consistent results, then definitely continue doing it that way. All right. So just to review, I've got this long tag end that I'm holding off, and that's just one. I've got my extra long tag end, and then I got my short, which hasn't moved. And I'm always moving away from me. Okay, so as I'm moving, so now if you notice, this slack has gotten bigger because I picked it up along the way. And then as the knot gets smaller and smaller, you'll notice that it becomes easier to pull up on the threads and make sure, the cord, and make sure that they stay organized and stay in line with no twists. All right, like right here, there's a small twist. There you go, I fixed it. All right. And I'm pulling up on this with relatively easy tension. All right, I'll go back and fix the tension later. But you'll understand when we put in that third color, it takes up space. It'll take up, 1/16 times 2, so that's what, 2/8 or a quarter, I guess, or whatever. I'm terrible at math. But it'll take up space in the middle. Right, so you're literally spreading this out, but it's on both sides of the knot, so it takes up a good amount of space, and you'll be surprised that how much space it'll take up as you add in that third color. Now, as I said in the past, I used to make them on my jig, and then I would put the third color on the jig and try to tie them. That became so cumbersome because now you're having to deal with all of these extra tag ends all over the place, and you know, it just got really, really annoying and got a lot harder to do. So I found it easier and a lot simpler to do two do two passes on your knot, and then tie that on, and then add the third color after your knot is loosely on your blank, your rod, or whatever round cylindrical thing you want to put it on. Hiking stick, I don't know, paddle of some sort. I've done this for a dragon boat paddle for my sister-in-law. If she's watching, shout out to Iris for letting me do that. Okay, so now, now I'm back to this tag end, right? So now from here, this is kind of loose, yeah? Now I'm gonna start working on this longer loop, this guy right here. So I'm gonna pull this, got this really long loop, and now I'm just gonna go around one more time. Now, if I pick up any slacks that I want a little bit tighter, I'll pick up both of those and tighten them up, but tighten it so that it's kind of loose. You want it to kind of roll around a little bit. It's a little too loose there. Then as far as how loose, how much slack to give as you're doing this to add in that third color, that takes practice, I'm not gonna lie. It takes a little bit of practice to do it because it just takes practice on how much tension to put. You know, like it'll take a couple. It took me a few, in fact, to know, okay, well, I put too much tension on this one, and it became harder and harder to add that third color. But right now, after I finish this, I'll add that third color, and I'm literally just going around one more time. It's also a little awkward to be doing this because I've got camera to my left, over my left shoulder essentially, and then I also have another camera that's right overhead that is just outside of my cell phone video view for editing later on. And that's it. Just keep going. I found that this is probably the most efficient way to do it. There are probably more efficient ways to do it, or maybe even just doing a smaller Turk's head. I don't know. I know people can get this done, you know, in 15 minutes, but I'm not one of them. Keep that out of the way. Keep going. Gonna take a quick pause to turn on some music. That way there's not so much silence here. It's just my fan in my home rod shop where we had to move everything. We had to move everything out because of the pandemic. We're just kind of excited to get back into the shop, but you know, do more of these videos, which I actually had planned to do later on in the year. I plan to do more tutorial videos, but we are where we are. Okay. Let's see, where are we at here? Let's cross there. Okay. I don't know if it's coming out clear enough. So notice as I'm moving, this is slipping over. Just got to remember to keep it so that it's on the area that you want to finish it off at. It doesn't have to be exactly on it, but it's so much easier to try to make it smaller, make the knot tighter, than to have to loosen it up and work backwards. Keep going. Well, there are the kids running around. Saturday festivities of just running around the house. Shout out to the parents who are teaching their kids at home. I've now learned that is no easy task. Shout out to the teachers out there. Thank you so much for teaching my kids, and special shout out to our first responders, essential workers. Thank you for doing the work that you do. If you are a first responder, essential worker, military, police, any of the above, and you purchase something at our shop, let us know. Send us an email. Those folks get a discount. They'll always get discounts because of that. We respect and appreciate your work, especially in these difficult times. So thank you for that. Keep going here. So I'm almost done. So as soon as I finish this gets out, I'll pretty much be ready to go with the third color. Now remember, now I'm picking up that second slack. Notice this is shorter. So I will have to go through it again. But that's kind of the name of the game. You just got to keep going until you get it to the right consistency that you want, the right size knot. Take a look at my time here. Cool, so this has already been about half an hour, before my intro. So I'd say maybe about 20 minutes. This is pretty far along for 20 minutes, I'd say. I'm usually not timing myself when I'm doing this. I'm just kind of going at it. So this is an interesting experiment, so to speak, for me. So now notice it's tighter. I'm actually turning the rod as I'm doing this. I am at the end. So I'm at the end now. This is my tag end. I can pull this all the way. So that was my long loop. Now I just got to work on my short loop. It's right here. There's my short loop. Once I finish this, and I'm just going around the knot again, I'll be ready to tie in my third color or my second color or third layer. Now, if you decide, what I found out, the thing I discovered is, if you decided, hey, you know what, I want to do a 3-pass or 3-layer Turk's head, right? This extra tag end is long enough, if you measure it correctly and give yourself a little bit of extra slack, it's long enough to go around a third time. All right, so you don't necessarily have to do like 3 passes on your jig and then have all of this extra cord. It gives you an opportunity to do the Turk's head and save on cord, save on material. Because for the longest time, I had a bunch of extra cord that I would just keep, and they're rather lengthy. Obviously this is going from my jig is 1.5 inch diameter to whatever this is, which is probably a little less than an inch. You know, so taking all that slack out definitely causes a lot of waste on cord. And waste is just wasting money, in my opinion, obviously. Comment below if you guys are enjoying this. Again, like I said, I'll check them out. Check out the comments later. I know it seems a little mundane for some folks, and that's okay. If you're not into it, that's okay. Thanks for stopping by. If you are and you're watching, thank you for sticking with me. But if you've got ideas for another tutorial or another workshop, put them in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are, what you want, you know, what kind of content you guys want, and we'll get it on there, you know, see what we can do. If there are some parts or anything that you need, you can visit our website, fishoncustoms.com. Again, FISHONCUSTOMS.com. And you know, if you have trouble finding stuff, because I'll be honest with you, I'm the one that works on the website, and I'm not a web developer, but I do what I can with what I got. And if there's something you're looking for that you can't find, then send me an email, send me a direct message. I'm more than happy to help you out while we're working on our website to make it more user-friendly and engaging. You know, let me know. Let me know if you guys need any help finding stuff. And there's so many things on there that I haven't been able to post up yet. Like we've become, we're dealers for North Fork Composites. And they have just recently released or expanded their saltwater line. And let me tell you, it is a beast of a line. Okay, so I'm gonna roll this back just to kind of get it untwisted around the rod, and there you go. So here's that Turk's head, all right? It's now manageable in a nicer knot, okay? So now, I've got my third color. And starting over here, mind you, I usually put my tag end on the 6 o'clock position of the rod. Okay, so it's hidden on the back end. If it was a spinning rod, obviously it would be on the 12 o'clock, or say, still be on the back end, in other words. So from here, turn this down a bit. From here, I'm just gonna separate my tag ends. Right, I have 1, 2, and then 1, 2 on this side. Put this on over there. I'm gonna get my needle, and I'm gonna start from here, and I'm gonna pull all the way out. All the way. Right here, just so that it kind of lines up with this. Okay? And then I'm gonna continue sewing it through the knot, going through each bite one at a time. Okay, remember, try to keep it on the blank. It's easier to go smaller than larger. After maybe about 2 turns of this, right after it goes around the knot once or twice, it won't pull on this side anymore. So you can pull it a little bit more taut, but not so much that it constricts. Now you're probably wondering, well, you know, Charles, I thought, you know, you're supposed to tie a Turk's head until it's really, really tight, so that it doesn't move. Yes, that's how I used to do it, and that's how I learned to do it. But with experience, I've noticed that if you tie it on really tight, over time, the rope will contract and shrink and stretch. And, you know, just with it being out in the sun, on salt water or fresh water or whatever, it will get loose. And sometimes I've seen people fishing with their Turk's head, it's like up here, it's like swaying back and forth. And that can get all kinds of annoying. So what I do is I tie it so that it's taut and snug, but not so much that it's tied on, and then I glue it at the end. And I'll glue it with Rod Bond, a very thin layer, of, I'll brush on a thin layer of Rod Bond. And after that, on there, completely permanent, absolutely permanent. And still to this day, I have had no problems with it. So ever since I started doing that about, oh gosh, maybe about 3-4 seasons ago now. And I've been doing that with all of my customers' rods and haven't had any problems. And what's great is you get that nice shape. The bites themselves are nice and squared or rectangular. When you over tighten them, they don't become nice and square. They become longer, elongated rectangles, just because you're tightening it down. Obviously, you don't want it to be this loose. You want it to be a lot more snug than this, but treat it like a winding check, or treat it like another component that you slide on, whether it's a trim band or trim ring rather, or winding check, hosel, whatever. And so here I'm just continuing to go through the knot. You don't have to do something this complex of a knot. There are different ones that you can get if you're able to find the cookbooks for it. I do recommend doing that. Unfortunately, we don't have a cookbook for it. It's one of our projects to set one up or to get one published. But we're working on that. That's going to take a little bit. However, as far as the tool, the jigs, we are very close to being able to manufacture our own jigs. And I'm talking, close, like really, really close. So you'll be able to purchase a jig, the same kind of jigs that we use, or similar jigs. And, that'll give you the ability to tie on, or to make bigger, more complex knots. Okay. I know there are a couple Turks head books out there that explain how to do it. Again, like I said, I'll go into another workshop on how to actually make the knot. But today, this is for those that either buy a knot that's already tied, or one that is a little bit simpler to do. Over time, so you notice this is kind of twisted. I just like to keep that untwisted. It makes it easier to pull the cord. So every so often, I'll just straighten it out and unsnag it or unfoul it. So you'll notice as I go, this is getting tighter, right? And like I said, it's creating space, or it's adding space in between the knot. So, we're just taking into account the space that it's going to take up. Okay. Go 2 at a time here. This customer in particular wanted a black color with obviously with the red tracer, something to match his rod here. And you'll notice, just in case you're wondering why there's a little bit of black here, I ran out of red, so I did it at the top, just that way I can at least cover it. It'll be covered anyway, so they won't see it. And it prevented me from having to open up a brand new spool just for a little, 1 inch, not even 1 inch section. All right, let's keep going. I know that there's some folks that have been in and out, and I thank you for hanging in there and sticking with it. Thank you for the support. Be on the lookout. We are going to be doing some interviews. We're going to be interviewed by another great YouTube channel called Hook to Cook. You can follow them on Instagram. It's Hook to Cook, HOOK, the number 2, the word cook, 805, the number 805. Or you can follow them on their YouTube channel, Hook to Cook, on YouTube. Great bunch of guys. They hit the surf up in Central and Northern California, but they are represented all up and down the coast. We've been in talks to do a live interview, kind of like a Q&A for different things. So, we'll be on the lookout for that. We're really excited to launch that footage very, very soon. So shout out to Hook to Cook. If you're watching, can't wait to get that going. We'll set up a date, set up a time, and start to promote. Let everybody know about it. So as you can see, I'm almost done with this knot. All right, this is getting pretty taut. I'm not even, I've got a little bit more to go. And it's been about a little bit less than 40 minutes. So, Turks heads don't have to take too long. This one, like I said, I've clocked it at doing it in just about an hour. And that's from beginning to end. A lot of times I will spend a day, like let's say I have a bunch of orders that require the usage of a Turks head. I'll spend maybe a day or two just making Turks heads all day. Different base colors, black, blue. Black seems to be the obvious favorite. And then doing the third color is a lot easier. You just cut it and have it all, kind of ready to go in the same bag. Just organize this guy a little bit. All right. Okay. Keep going here. Get this out of the way. All right, and then you just got to keep going. Okay. Oop. There goes my sticker. Bring that guy back over here. All right. So now as I get toward the end, it's getting a lot tighter. And it's hard to illustrate or show that on film, but it is getting a lot tighter to pass this needle through. Now, if you have a smaller needle, obviously a smaller diameter needle would be a little bit easier than this, but having the paracord needle actually is great because it creates a pretty big channel, and then you can kind of shrink that channel, after. And it's not too difficult to do that. Get this guy over here. Okay, keep going. All right. If you have any other questions, you can't wait until later, go ahead and send me a direct message, whether on Facebook or Instagram, and I will try to get to it. I'll definitely make an effort to get to it today, at some point today, and answer those questions as best as I can. But we'll go from there. Okay. So I'm going to keep going here. So notice now that I'm getting close to the end here, and I want to make sure that this cord gets sandwiched right in the middle. So as I get closer to the end, it will get tighter and tighter, like it is now. And so you're kind of doing two things, as I keep saying, that As you're adding cord, you're also tightening the knot, because you're simply adding space to it. And the great way about doing it this way is everything stays nice and clean. You don't have too many overlaps, or you don't have any overlaps for that matter. And it becomes a lot easier to kind of go through it. Make sure I did that correctly. There you go. Easier to go through it. All right, so here, now I'm at the end. All right. And it can be a little bit hard to see because obviously the colors are very similar, but I'm over here at the end, and now I'm just going to continue on through to the very last bite. And that's it. So that's the end right there. So from here, I'll just take this guy off. And now notice this is pretty loose, right? So what I would go and do is, now if there are any extra, if there's any extra slack that I want to take out, I'll go and take that out, maybe pull it just a hair tighter. That's where the finer finishing comes into play. But, in this case, just to be mindful of time, I'm not going to do that. Now, let's say you wanted to do just a 3-pass or 3-color Turk's head, right? And let's say I'm sorry, not 3-color, but a 3-pass Turk's head with the same color. This long tag end is about enough to go around again. So you want to, I don't know, this is probably like another 4 feet, I would say. It's enough to go around it again. So that makes it kind of nice. Now, to finish this, right, let's say that we already finished this. I'm going to go ahead and cut this with my scissors over here. Cut that so it's a little bit smaller. Cut that so it's smaller. Okay. Now, just to prevent it from unraveling, I'm going to go ahead and grab my lighter. So 1 second. Grab my lighter, and I'm just going to go ahead and melt the ends off really quick so that it doesn't unravel while I'm finishing this. Okay. So this is a good way, at this point, this is a good way to tighten it up if you want to, because you have less tags to kind of worry about. This can go into your discard pile or wherever you want to put it. Just kind of move this along so that it covers whatever you need it to cover. Now, let's say I was completely done here. What I would do then is I'd get a piece of 2x4, just a short piece, and I would roll this whole thing onto the 2x4 and put a good amount of pressure. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm flattening all of this out. So if you can see it, there's like some high points and lower points and peaks and valleys. This flattens it out and squares it off. So it's really nice and clean and really nice and uniformly square. At that point, then I go ahead and just move my tag end so it's on the underside of the rod, right? And I'll pull this a little bit tight. Like, let's say I was completely done, right? I'll pull this just a little bit tighter, right? On purpose. And what I used to do is I used to get an X-Acto blade, and I'd heat it up so that it's red hot, and I would use that as a hot knife to cut through both of these tag ends. But I found something at Harbor Freight Tools where it's like a wood burning tool, where it's kind of like something like this, right? And it came with a blade-like end to it. All right, this isn't an X-Acto blade. It's just literally a blade end. It was dull to begin with, and I just screwed it on. All right. And then I plug this in, I wait for it to get hot, and then from there, I literally will just cut it as a hot knife. And this is a great way to end and tuck away your tag ends, because it will singe and melt the end so it doesn't fray out. But the reason I'm pulling it really tight just here at the tag end so that I can, here, let me grab this, so that when I pull it tight and I cut out the tag ends, I can pull this back just a little bit to loosen it to where it should be, and the tag ends will tuck underneath this, and you can't see it. You literally can't see where it begins and it ends. And that's the point, in my opinion, of a Turk's head. It's like a kind of like an infinity knot that you don't know where it begins and ends. Now, to complete the Turk's head, let's say this is again completed and done. Grab some tape. Let's say right here. Oh shoot, sorry. Let's say this is where I wanted it to end. I'll kind of make a mental note that this is where I want it to end, right? So I'll grab my tape. All right. Pull a nice section off. So I'll just kind of mark it off, and then I'll lift this up just a little bit, okay? And I'll literally go maybe 1/16 over, just past where I want it to end, all right? And then roll this back on top, right? So let's say this is where I want it to end. Notice the bottom of the bottom of the knot is slightly overlapped on the masking tape. I'll get my rod bond, right? And what we use over at Fish on Customs is U40 rod bond. U40 rod bond here. Ooh. U40 rod bond. And I'll mix just a little bit of it up. Just enough to kind of maybe, I don't know, a quarter size amount. Like literally like a 25-cent quarter. And I also picked up these acid brushes from Harbor Freight. You can get a bunch of them dirt cheap, right? So I use these because this is stiff enough to move the rod bond around. The rod bonds can get pretty pasty for those of you that have worked with it. You could also, I suppose you could also use 5-minute epoxy, but I would be very weary about that because it sets so fast. I like using the rod bond because it takes about half an hour to an hour to set, so you have some time to kind of work with it. What I'll do, once I have it mixed, I'll pull this off, right? Notice it stays put. And I'll brush that glue onto here. And I'll brush just a very thin layer. Not so much that it kind of cakes on me, but just enough so that it stays. So this thread makes contact with the Turk's head, and slide it back on. And you'll notice even if this was tighter, it would slide on real easy, right? Then I just kind of move it into place where I want it to live, right? And then just be done with it. Gluing it accomplishes two things. It doesn't allow this knot to come undone because all the threads are saturated with glue. Additionally, this let's say this your deckhand style rod ended up here. It also glues your tag end down so it doesn't come undone. Right? So that's all. It serves dual purpose. Right? And as I said before, on this end over here, it shows a little bit of the winding check. So now I can put finish on it and have a barrier so it doesn't touch my Turk's head and seep right into it like a sponge. Okay, so it's currently 2:54. We're still live. Looks like there's about 10 people on here. That's about it. If there are questions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and end this this live feed. Then I'll start it up again, and we'll answer some of your questions. So thank you, and hope to see you guys soon. Remember, follow us. We got you hooked up, or on that's on Instagram. On Facebook, it's Fish on Customs, and if you want to know more about our sales that are coming up, add your email to our newsletter on our website, fishoncustoms.com. And that's it. I hope everyone stays safe. Everyone stays healthy. Stay at home. As a fisherman and a rod builder, I'm anxious to get out there, but not so much that it ruins our chances by going out prematurely. So for those that are out private boating, more power to you, but please be safe. Cover your mouths, wash your hands, take care of each other, and God bless.